Professor, and today we're going to talk to you a little bit about the Serval Project. Think about the physical links that we use to get service every day. We get internet through cables and fibers, and we get cell signals through cell towers. But imagine if all of these links were to not work anymore. The answer to this is actually going to be the Serval Project. The Serval Project allows you to get access to a network without going through these links that we use every day. So to illustrate this, I want you to imagine that you're trying to cross a river. There's no bridges, there's only stepping stones. To get to the other side of the river, or to deliver your message to the other side of the river, you're going to need to take these stepping stones one by one by one. You can't just jump to the 5th stepping stone, you'll fall, you won't be able to deliver your message, you'll get all wet. So essentially, the stepping stones are other people's wireless devices that are both accepting a signal and putting the signal out. And that, in essence, is how the Serval Project works.
The Serval Project was founded in 2010 when a hurricane had hit Haiti by Dr. Paul Gardner Stephen and his colleague Romana Challens, who attended Flinders University. The app is only available on Android, and since the inception of the app, it has received notoriety and a significant amount of funding, as well as many supporters have donated equipment.
The Serval Project utilizes ad hoc technology. Ad hoc technology is the wireless radio that exists in all of our current hardware. The hardware that utilizes this technology is typically computers, smartphones, and any device that utilizes network access and communication. This technology can be accessed through software on your computer, and that's what the Serval Project does. It accesses your wireless radio to transmit and connect to other people's wireless radios. This is great for people who are lacking internet access or don't have this technology available to them because they can get it free from people around them. This service model allows the communication to persist even if there's network blackouts or lack of communication to me and someone who's very close to me, because it'll allow them to connect to me even if we don't have a solid link in the network layer or any other layer. It utilizes the physical layer of the protocol stack and uses the hardware radio on each device. It bypasses the other layers because it uses this small piece of hardware that allows you to connect to other people's devices and communicate with them around you. It's great after there's a mass shutdown of networks because you can still connect and communicate with those people around you.
Like with any application in beta, there are several problems that the programmers encounter throughout making the app. The first problem that they encountered was with power consumption. Using a Wi-Fi system to connect phones is obviously going to consume much of the phone's power. If you have a smartphone yourself, you know that connecting to Wi-Fi really consumes a lot of power of your phone. If you have it open, it'll try to connect to Wi-Fi's all around you, and your phone battery will drain extremely quickly. The second problem that they usually encounter is the Wi-Fi's range. Wi-Fi usually only has about 100 meters of range, and when trying to communicate with other cell phones, you really need more range to make it realistic. If you're on Haiti and you have a natural disaster, you obviously need to communicate with more people other than the ones just in that 100-meter range. Their third problem was that usually people can't connect to Wi-Fi, can't connect to the mesh network because their phones aren't rooted. You have to have a rooted phone in order to get onto the mesh network, and therefore you need an Android, and it has to be rooted. You can't connect with an iPhone, and you can't connect with an unrooted Android. To solve all these problems, they created a thing called the mesh extender. The mesh extender tackled the problem of the power consumption because it limits the time that the application is on idle when it's up, and several other things that they didn't disclose. The other things that they solved was the Wi-Fi problem, and they extended the Wi-Fi network by making the app use multiple interfaces throughout the network instead of just Wi-Fi, which extended their Wi-Fi meters to way more than 100 and made it more realistic. And finally, the routing problem they solved because the mesh extender allows you to connect to the mesh network without having a rooted phone. They just bypass that system. Along with disadvantages, security is also a major problem when it comes to peer-to-peer applications like a mesh network. You encounter hackers who always want your information. To make sure that their application is extremely secure, they use PIN numbers, personal identification numbers, along with encryptions throughout the network to make it extremely secure.
As mentioned before, Serval allows for people to rely less on physical infrastructures, and thus this brings us to the idea that we are a step closer to the internet as something that is prevalent and something that everyone can have access to. But keyword can. And think of, instead of can have access to, everyone should have access to. Is the internet actually necessary for a standard of living? And if so, does this mean that the internet should be a human right? Serval has explicitly said that all they do is pass data and text between mobile phones and don't necessarily have anything to do with the internet. However, it would be naive for us to ignore the issue of the fact that the Serval's architecture can have the potential to extend to the internet. And so we entertain the idea of the internet as a human right. Many people in the tech industry have been thinking and talking about this issue of the internet as a human right, or even as a priority. For example, Bill Gates have talked about it, and Vinton Cerf from Google have talked about it. And both of them have interestingly said that the internet as a human right or a priority is ridiculous. Bill Gates has said that the internet as a priority is ridiculous because there are other priorities that we have to concern ourselves with, most notably malaria. Vinton Cerf has argued against the internet as a human right explicitly because he sees the internet as more of a medium for the right itself rather than the right itself. So in a world where the internet provides quick, easy access to useful information such as your finances, and allows for people enrolled in third world countries to have access to trade and transportation and medicine, the internet can be seen as a necessity, especially in places where they don't have more solid infrastructures. And it's just one of those things that we wanted to bring to this topic of Serval because it's something that's interesting to think about. And without further ado, we would like to open the floor to questions and comments.
That was so